on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to another episode of Some Seminarians. I am not your host. We are your hosts, and I'm joined here with some of my brother religious. So I just want to go around real quick and let's introduce ourselves. My name is Brother Vinny. I'm a Capuchin Franciscan friar. Been in the community for about 7 years now. So solemnly professed as of last year, August. So, yeah. How are y'all?
My name's Brother Vladimir. I'm a Discalced Carmelite. I made my first vows this past June, and so this is my third year of being in formation with the Discalced Carmelites.
Cool.
Yeah. My name is Brother Michael. I am from New Jersey, and I'm with the Conventual Franciscans. I took simple vows this past August, and this is my third year in the order. Well, it's awesome to be here.
My name is Brother Antonio. I am a Redemptorist. I've been with the Redemptorists for about 5 years, and I'm in my second year of temporary vows now.
Nice. That's cool. So we have a Capuchin, a Conventual, Redemptorist, and a Carmelite, right?
Discalced Carmelite.
Discalced Carmelite. What does discalced mean? Like, I have a hard time with that. I don't know if y'all like.
Yeah, good question. Good question.
Yeah,
what does
so
that mean?
The Carmelites were originally founded in the 1200s over in the Holy Land at Mount Carmel. It was a group of hermits. And eventually they moved over to Europe because, things got a little crazy over in the Holy Land. And they couldn't stay there anymore, and so they came over to Europe. And then in the 1500s, a woman named St. Teresa of Jesus and St. John of the Cross worked to some reform in the Carmelite order and founded the Discalced Carmelites. And the discalced means barefoot. And that was just a sign of
let me see if it's barefoot. Let me see.
Of the reform. And so there's the Carmelites, and then there's the Discalced Carmelites.
Nice, cool.
Yeah, and we were originally barefoot, but then Saint Teresa thought it was too extreme, and because she was very human in her way of living, and so she said we need to at least wear sandals. We'll wear sandals.
That's helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they were trying to walk around in the snow all the time, and they're like, no, we need at least sandals.
Well, St. Alphonsus, who was our founder, he was a great lover and friend of St. Teresa of Avila. So a lot of his writings reference her, and like even on mental prayer, because she was huge, obviously, in mental prayer. So he would sign on his letters. You know how a lot of religious people would do JMJ. So St. Alphonsus would do JMJT.
Oh,
for Teresa.
Okay, okay. That's cool. So, and you were talking before we started the show. Alphonsus Agori is the founder of your. So how did that all start?
So basically, he started as a diocesan priest.
Okay.
Prior to that, he was a successful lawyer at the age of 16. And then he had never lost a case, and there was this one case that he lost because of corruption. And he said, "World, I know you now." And he walked out of the court and vowed to never practice law again. He went to church, and he gave his sword, which was the sign of nobility, put it at the feet of Our Lady.
Yeah.
And then, to make the long story short, he started to discern his vocation and became a priest, even against his father's will. And he was working himself too much to where his body couldn't take it anymore. So he got sick, and he was told to take some time off.
Yeah.
And went to the mountains to rest. But then he found that there were a lot of shepherds there who hadn't been evangelized.
Yeah.
And were illiterate. And he had a lot of compassion for them. So he started evangelizing them, even though he was there to take rest.
Wait. So where's this at? This is in like Italy?
In Italy, yes.
Okay, Italy.
And so he that's kind of how he started like the work of working with the most abandoned and the poor.
Okay.
But then he came with this nun who was having visions of Jesus telling her that she needed to start a new order. So they started in 1731, the Redemptoristines. They're a group of cloistered nuns. But then in the visions, Jesus told Maria Celeste Crosta Rosa that there was also supposed to be a male order. And so St. Alphonsus was the one who had to do it. So
the chosen one.
Exactly. So so they're 1731. We're 1732.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, when you reminded me whenever you were saying that Alphonsus Agori had have difficulty with his father. It's reminded me a little bit of Francis.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Definitely. Yeah.
So
And St. Francis was And for us,
Our boy.
That's right.
Our boy.
That's right there. Yeah, St. Francis was our founder, Franciscans, and biggest part for me with St. Francis was his draw to serve the poor and the most vulnerable, and just his story about the leper and embracing the leper and his own conversion story, and that's really a huge part, I believe, of our order as Franciscans.
And so, like, there's a huge difference between the conventual friars and the Capuchin friars. I think historically, you guys are, traced back the furthest to St. Francis. That's right.
Right. Yeah. Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so, I'm not sure what the dispute was. I think there was there was just a whole lot of
yeah.
a lot of fighting going
history,
on.
That's
right. A lot of fighting.
But we're brothers.
Okay.
We're
brothers. That's right.
That's right.
So we have our formation in the same state, and we get together a lot for our novitiate year. So that's really cool.
Out in California, it was great.
Yeah, it is
being able to get to know.
So some of that is seen in, like, when we're all together. I'm sure it's seen like when you're with the community, with the brotherhoods, right? It's like a lot of life. So that's the wonderful thing about living in a religious community. So, but the Capuchin tradition, we were founded, a group of friars that were founded in 1525, and it kind of started out this movement to move back into the original roots of Francis, original desires of Francis to move into like a more simplistic living, more like back into the roots of poverty. So some of the friars who had, they had left the original Franciscans. It was the Baccio brothers, and they took shelter with some Camaldolese monks. And it's really fascinating because that's where we got our hood from. So if you notice the Capuchin, we always have long pointed hoods, and in Italian that's what capuche is pointed hoods, or hooded ones. So yeah, it's just been like a really cool tradition to read about and hear about, and so we have like a long-standing tradition of saints. Padre Pio was a great saint. So, but yeah, it's been really good. So and I think our viewers, and me too, I'm like pretty fascinated, really interested, maybe in hearing some of you guys' vocation stories. I don't know, like let's see how you guys came into the order, or how you guys maybe just fell in love with the charism of the community and the brotherhood. So let's start with Antonio here.
Sure. So I started discerning back seriously discerning, like in 2012, something like that. But since I was a child, I was very involved in the church, and I used to be a lector and altar server. Started as an altar server, right? Yeah, that's how it starts. Yeah. I was an altar server for like a couple of years, from like when I was 9, I think, until maybe 12. And around age 12, I became a lector because I thought I was too old to be an altar server.
You're too old, man. Stop.
I know. It was when I look back, I'm like, but then after that, it just kind of didn't think too much about it. So I was involved in the church in my small town in Mexico, and when I moved to the States in 2009, I started to become more involved in church again.
Nice.
And so I think it was maybe when I was 20 that I started to, as I was serving, I started to feel this desire to serve. And I was very afraid of God calling me to be a priest or a missionary. And I remember, in my prayer thinking, oh my gosh, I really want to serve, but I don't want to be a priest or a missionary, anything else.
I forgot to put this on the table, guys. I'm sorry. So I just want to.
Nice mug.
Thanks.
Right.
Mug.
Yeah.
Sorry, brother.
No worries. So I started to discern, and for some reason, as I thought about the priesthood, and then I started to just kind of reconcile that, maybe God was calling me to this, and it became exciting once I accepted it. There was still something about the priesthood that I just didn't identify with it, and so I would pray about it, and I even asked. I talked to one of the priests in my parish, and I said, I really feel like God is calling me to this, but I just don't see myself as a like celebrating mass or hearing confessions. And he said, well, don't worry about it. There's more to being a priest than celebrating mass and hearing confessions. So that kind of put me a little bit to ease, but not really. And so I kept discerning. I found a group in Mexico, and I decided to just give it a shot. And I went, and when I was there, I lasted maybe 6 or 7 months. But one time over dinner, the priest started talking about religious brothers or lay brothers, and I thought that sounds very interesting. So what's that about? So he started, to tell me about, well, religious brothers live in community. They profess the vows as the same community and all of that, but they're not priests. They just do manual labor or other kind of works. And I was like, oh, that sounds actually kind of interesting, right? And so then another time we talked about it again, and there was something in it that just really seemed attractive. So I started to look more into it. And, I just came to the realization that maybe this is what God is calling me to. So I decided to leave this group. I had already met the Redemptorists, and I knew they had brothers. So I really liked them a lot. So when I came back to the States, and I decided to take some time off, but then once I made the decision, it made a lot of sense to me as to why, the priesthood never made sense in the sense of my vocation to me. It's like, because this is what God was calling me to. I just didn't know brothers existed. And so I really like the idea of working with the most abandoned and the poor, or preaching the good news to the most abandoned and the poor, which is the charism of the congregation.
Nice.
And it's been 5 years.
That's
so
great, bro.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Wow.
Great story.
Yes.
Sure.
What about you, Michael?
Yes. Well, my vocation story, I believe, for me, really started back when I was in college. It's really a time when I was growing in my own faith and my own deeper prayer life and growing closer to God. And I went to a college where they had Benedictine community there.
Oh, you went to
So Belmont Abbey College. It was
okay,
in North Carolina, and it was a Benedictine college. And actually, my journey started with the Benedictines. I was with them for 4 years, then discerned out of their community, and was out since 2007, and did a lot of different jobs, did a lot of different things, and then about 10 years later, I just really felt God's tug back to discernment for religious life.
Wow.
And I was really drawn to the more active life, and more very drawn to the prayer life, but also drawn to active ministry with serving the people. And before I entered the Franciscans, I've had a lot of different job opportunities with serving vulnerable people, and such as I served special needs kids and working as a teacher's aide for autistic kids, as well as being a nursing assistant and things like that. And so during my discernment of really seeking if God's calling me back, it just really the draw to a life again of prayer and service. And like I was sharing earlier with the Franciscans, big charism is serving the vulnerable in our world. And so that just really drew me. And I'm happy and at peace where I'm at now. So it's a blessing to be here. So
that's great.
Cool, so how about you, Brother Vinny?
Yeah, bro. Thanks. Mine also started in college.
Yeah.
Like, that's kind of where I had like my huge conversion process, if you would. But before then, like in high school, I was like really involved like with just missionary work. Like a lot of you go to like mission trips and things, and like we had a life team parish, so it was like everybody was like, yeah, everybody was going on trips, and you just do fun stuff, and like that's why you went. You know what I mean? And so we were very fortunate to be able to go on a couple trips. Like.
Awesome.
Yeah, like just service trips and stuff, and like it was super like just fun, but I credit those trips to like instilling in me the vocation and desire to serve, like from the get-go. You know what I mean? So it was fun. I remember like going on a mission trip to Honduras, and that being like a really foundational trip. Like, you just get to know poverty, like humility and like simplicity. When I went to college, it was like this just rude awakening. You know what I mean? Like I was living the right way, like right lifestyle, right way. And so I went to college because like I felt this desire in my heart. Like I felt this desire to serve through the heart and hands of a priest. And so I think like a lot of people, you go to college and like that kind of dwindles, you know what I mean?
True.
And so that's what happened. But yeah, just started to just realize that I was representing the wrong thing, like I was representing the evil one. There was a couple of times like just yeah, just getting into trouble, getting arrested, like just a lot of weird things, you know. And I realized real quick, like, okay, I'm not representing the Lord. I'm not representing God in my life, you know. And so my senior year of college was like 2 months before graduation. One of the vocations director like actually came to the school, and at the time I didn't know he was a Capuchin. And I had this huge devotion to Padre Pio. Like Padre Pio was coming up a lot in my prayer life, just a lot of times, like just in prayer, like, you know, I mean, just encounters with Padre Pio, like relics and people I knew that knew him, you know, like older people. And so when I met the vocation director, he was like, I'm a Capuchin, you know, and like we just right away clicked, bro. It was cool.
Nice.
We just
That's great.
just clicked right away, you know. And so he's like, well, come to the community, come check it out, you know. And yeah, it was ever since, man, same, you know. Ever since, you just fall in love with the order, fall in love with the ministry, and like the charism, the way they live, the way they pray, and you know, like all of that has just been a super amazing, adventurous life, you know. So, but how about Vladimir over here, man?
Yeah, so I was also very involved in church as a kid and as a teenager, but I didn't grow up Catholic, and I became Catholic when I was in college, and but even before that, I'd wanted to go into ministry, and so when I became Catholic, then I found out about this thing called religious life. It was very appealing to me because it was a combination of a lot of things that I wanted to do. You know, I wanted to serve Jesus in a specific way, and I wanted to do ministry at that time, especially with children, working in things like orphanages or in children's shelters, things like that. And so I started out with a religious order that was their focus. I joined this religious order in Houston, and their founder is the patron saint of orphans and abandoned youth, St. Jerome Emiliani. And I was with them, and then I did a year of postulancy with them, and then I discerned out because I kind of decided to kind of rush into it and wanted to kind of go back to step one because I joined kind of soon after I converted to Catholicism, and so I did different work. And my degree was in social work, so I did different kind of things like that. And but you know, after discernment, I was still feeling, after a few years of working and dating and fun stuff like that, you know, I was still feeling very strongly called back to that. And so I went and applied and went back with the religious community I was with before, and I think part of that was just because, you know, that was the group that I knew, and I liked them.
Who was it before?
They're called the Somaskin Fathers.
Whoa, bro! That sounds like a Jedi name or something.
Somaskin Fathers. They were.
Have you heard of that before?
No.
Oh, you have. Okay.
Yeah.
It's based on. They were founded near a city called Somasca, Italy. But
Sounds tight, bro. Okay.
and while I was there, I kind of realized that I was feeling drawn, almost the opposite of Brother Michael. I was feeling drawn to a community that was. I was feeling drawn to more prayer in my life, in my ministry, and in my community life. And you know, and they told me when I mentioned this to them, you know, if you want, you know, there's nothing stopping you from going and doing extra holy hours or things like that. But I realized I wanted that prayer to be something that was kind of part of the whole community, part of our whole life, and so. And so I went on a vocation visit with the Discalced Carmelites here in San Antonio, and I felt really drawn and attracted to their life because prayer is a huge part of our life.
Sure.
You know, the three doctors of the church that we have, like all of their Saint Teresa, our foundress, her whole thing was on prayer. Our you know, the charism and the life is focused on that union with God, through prayer and helping other people, you know, reach that union with God, and so, but they weren't cloistered. The nuns are, our nuns are, but the friars aren't cloistered. So I felt like it was a really great balance between wanting more prayer, but not necessarily living in a cloistered community. And so, so I felt drawn to the Discalced Carmelites.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of a fun thing was about a year after I became Catholic, though, kind of backtracking, I read a book that a friend gave me called Maurice and Therese. I brought it.
There you go.
Oh, you brought it.
Not doing advertising for them, but this is a really good book. But it
for
was
$19.99.
Looks like a good book.
Maurice and Therese is a book about he was a seminarian that wrote letters with Saint Therese, and it was a correspondence that they had together. And he had a lot of different struggles, and she was dying because these letters were written in the last year of her life. And at that time, I prayed to Saint Therese, or I told Saint Therese, I'm like, I don't know if this is something that Catholics do, but if it is, you're going to be the patron saint for my vocation. And so it's funny, and it's awesome now that I get to call her my sister, because she was a Discalced Carmelite nun.
Nice.
And so she's probably been pushing me towards this place too. Yeah.
That's cool.
And but yeah, I really love the prayer. That's part of it. That's part of our life. And that's what really drew me.
It's really awesome, man, because like I think all of us really emphasize like the roles of the community in our life.
Yeah.
You know, like how they've been pretty influential, like being around. I was wondering if we have any, like, what's the best part about living in community, like in your experience, or what's maybe some of those joys, you know? Because they're
community life is awesome. I think religious life is a big part of what drew me to religious life. What's community life? You know, I see community life as such a blessing. And St. Francis said, you know, a big thing he said was, "And the Lord gave me brothers." You know, it's a true blessing. And also, there are some fun and funny times too in community. You know, some hard times, but some fun times too. You know, it's, I know in my community we always have our game times. You know, everyone likes the different games and different personalities. You know, and it's really awesome. So I think community life is such a blessing. It can be hard, but fun and also a blessing.
It is fun, I like my favorite part is like we all come together and have like our common meal, you know, like in the evening, and then we have like you guys do the same thing, right? Like morning prayer, you know, and then when it's evening we come do evening prayer, and then we have our common meal, and then it's always fun cleaning the kitchen, like just.
That's one of my responsibilities.
Number one,
should come over to our community when it's time to clean.
Like, well, number one, like we're all guys, so everyone's like, "How do you clean?" We don't know how to clean, but it's funny though, man. It's just fun. We all like just mess around and joke, and you know, you get the towel. You know,
I joke around with my friends. I say I entered community life in order to learn to clean a kitchen well.
There are some that know. They're like, all right, you left the spot, bro.
Exactly, because if you don't clean it well, they'll let you.
Yes, exactly.
No, but I think one of the things about community life, to me, it feels a lot like a family.
Yeah.
The other thing is that, at least for our community, and I think this is true for a lot of communities nowadays, that the difference in ages for everybody, you know, there's like such a huge difference, even in experience and out cultures here where we're at. And I remember telling somebody one time about living in community. I said, you know, that's how you know that the Holy Spirit is at work, because you see like men of all ages. Like you have our older conferers who are in their 60s, 70s, even older, living with younger conferers. And I said, this is how you know the Holy Spirit is at work, because otherwise we'd be burning houses down.
We'd be next, bro.
Yeah, because you know it's incredible. But I think at the end of the day, one of the things that I love about community is that even though it can be challenging at times, for me, when it matters, when it's a hard time or something like that, I know that there's always one of my brothers or to catch me. I have so many stories of when there were times where I thought I was just gonna like fall or break apart, and there was always a brother there who would catch you. And sometimes it's in the most simple way. Somebody say, just sit with you, or sometimes it's a really good friend you just sit with and talk, you know, but you can see the hand of God there. And I feel like sometimes I was talking to one of my brothers about the challenges of community life and the joys of it, and he said, you know, compared to the life of a diocesan, you know, who a lot of times are by themselves, both lives have challenges, you know. But he said, I think I'd rather deal with the challenges of community than with the challenges of living alone. And some people, it's different. Some people might deal with the challenges of living alone. It's different. It's a different kind of life.
Yeah, community life was definitely a draw for me too when looking at, whether to go diocesan or join a religious community. And one of we in our community, our common meal is the lunch.
Okay.
And we have lunch is our bigger meal. And our province was founded by Spanish friars, so we also believe very much in the siesta.
Nice.
Yes.
Hallelujah.
I was south part of our.
And it is we have those funny moments in like games. And I remember one of the friars that we live with. We would teach him different card games or dominoes and things like that. And he would start winning or doing well, and so we would accuse him of cheating and things like that. He's like, no, I'm still just learning. Or he would make a mistake, and he's like, oh, I'm still just learning. We're like, no, you're cheating. And so now we joke and tease him that every time that he's still just learning the game. But there is definitely the challenges too, and it's funny. There's in John of the Cross, he gave the counsels to religious, and one of them was that your brothers are in the monastery to help chisel you and help form you. And so during the novitiate, we had to give a presentation on these counsels, and so I had drew pictures of different guys with chiseling because the brothers are there to help chisel you. And then I drew a picture of my novice master with a jackhammer helping to help chisel there.
That's what it feels like, huh?
And so, but it's all very, very helpful because we're all trying to be holy, and we have lots of faults that we need to get chiseled out of us, and so community life is definitely a blessing in that way.
Yeah. I second that too. Man.
So
It's been just to reiterate what you said. Yeah, it's just like so much joy in the life, but there's a lot of times when it's just frustrating, or come on, bro, you know what I mean. And that's common in life, but it's amazing how much like grace fills up those spaces. I love that. That's like my favorite part. So,
Brother Vinny, what would you say to someone who's interested in religious life?
I think, well, if you're watching, you've heard a couple times, or listening, you've heard a couple times us mentioning some keywords, so like prayer and discernment. And so for me, that's just huge in my own life. Right. And I think, it's just key for anyone who's wanting to just discover what God is asking them to do, what God wants to make happen in their life. And so just prayer, make time to pray. Even when you don't feel like praying, still just be present in the silence and the quiet. So that's my two cents.
I agree with that. I would say a couple things. One thing, give your undivided heart to God in discerning His will for you. And from my own personal experience, it's a life of prayer, it's staying close to the Lord in the sacraments and spiritual direction. Those are big things for me that help me discern religious life, and I'd encourage anybody to engage in those things fully in discernment.
And I think that like discernment is sometimes a scary word, like for like when you first start out. I remember like I would hear discernment like in youth group or in college, and I'd be like go the other way, you know what I mean? Like it's a scary word and so, but the thing about discernment, I think if I was to sum that word up, I think it means basically, in short, like just living your life with God, like making every choice that you can like with God, and like just learning how to decipher, because you live life and you have the ability, the chance, the opportunity to make all kinds of decisions and choices, but to be able to do that with God, behind all that, I think is what discernment is.
And I think another really important thing is also to just do it and give it a shot. Like Brother Michael and I, we were both in other communities before we joined our current ones, and at least I know for myself that wasn't wasted time at all. Right. And so I would definitely, I also say the same thing about prayer and everything, but also I would just say just give it a try. Like it's not going to be wasted time if it's not the right community or if it's not the necessary vocation, because you'll be able to discern in that as well. I mean, obviously, you don't want to just jump in if you have like zero kind of draw towards religious life, but if there is something drawing you to religious life or to the priesthood, to give it a shot, because it won't be a waste of time.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, and I think the other thing is that, as Brother Vinny mentioned, that the word discernment is very scary, but I think it's because we always associate it with, oh, you're going to join religious life, or because someone knows that you're discerning your vocation, that there's this thing on your back that you have to go into the seminary and you have to become a priest. One of the things that I like to say when someone invites me to share my vocation story is that I'm with the Redemptorists or I'm in the seminary, but I'm not going to become a priest. And people are shocked, and then I explain that I'm going to remain as a brother.
Yeah.
And so then it's just to tell to people, just because you're not going to become a priest or a brother joining religious life doesn't mean that you don't have to discern. Everybody, no matter what state of life you're going for, you have to discern whether God is calling you to be married or to remain as a single person, and consecrate yourself in that way to God, because He's calling us all, So it's just not being afraid, and not being afraid of that word discernment, or even going to a particular group and trying them out. Doesn't mean that you're going to stay. It's part of discernment.
Yeah, the discernment doesn't end the day you enter.
Yeah, I had a spiritual director tell me once that I try to practice this still in my life, but he said discernment doesn't end just like that when you enter, but it's a thing that you have to ask yourself every day. You have to ask God every day, do you still want me to do this today?
And
today? Maybe
like yesterday I knew.
Exactly. Maybe he said maybe one day He'll say no, so then you'll figure it out. But ask God, and don't be afraid of asking God. Don't be afraid of seeking God, because He's not afraid of being found. He'll always be there to answer.
That's cool.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, so for all those who are watching and listening, keep in mind that we're keeping you in our prayers as religious, in our own way, in our charism, and with our communities. And please also pray for us in our studies. All those who are facilitating this podcast, Some Seminarians, you could find us on Spotify and on Apple Podcasts. And so you can follow a lot of us on our social medias. I don't know if you guys have social medias, pages that you guys... I'm a Twitter guy, so you can follow me on Twitter at brvinmary. I also have a podcast at thebrotherhut.com. You can find that also as well. So
yeah, we have Facebook mainly, our community, and so you can follow Conventional on Facebook.
Yeah, you can find the Redemptorist on Facebook as North American Conference of Redemptorists.
Yeah, and our bigger pages are the Little Flower Basilica here in San Antonio.
Right down the street, nice.
On Facebook, on Instagram, and I think. And
cool.
Awesome.
So.
And then look up Capuchins at Cap Friars. I'd throw it out,
Take care.